Hi, this is JB. Here are some things that I did to save money and pay off debt. Some of these ideas are kind of extreme or silly, but they really helped me. So maybe they can help you. One thing I did to save money was I was buying these lattes every day, sometimes twice a day, and they were like $7.51 each. And I stopped doing that because I added it up that if I bought two of those a day every day, it would be like around $5,500 a year. And if I bought even just one a day, it would still be like around $2,700 a year. That's a pretty significant number. And I know people will say, that's silly because you got all this debt and a latte isn't going to make or break you, but those are pretty big numbers. I mean, 5,500, that's a lot of money to spend on coffee. So it is a big deal and it is significant and it does make a difference. So that was one thing I did was I stopped buying lattes and I bought regular coffee, which was like half the price. So that cut down the yearly expense. And then after that, I was actually the coffee I would buy. I would actually sit there and at work, I would get a bottle of water and water down the coffee to make it last all day. And I know that's kind of silly, but that's what I did. And it helped because I went from buying like sometimes two lattes a day to one coffee a day. And then I just got even cheaper where I just make my coffee and bring it to work from now on. So yeah, I mean, think of ways that you can cut out your expenses each day. I mean, just imagine if that like $2,700 yearly coffee expense, at minimum, probably $2,700. Imagine if that had gone towards my debt or was invested or, went into savings. Yeah, so that's a big number. Yeah, so just, go over your daily habits and your daily routine and, see if there are areas that you can improve. Another extreme thing that I did that really helped was I actually moved in with my in laws. And to some of you, that might sound horrible, but I actually get along with my in laws, so it's not so bad. It's kind of embarrassing, at my age to kind of move in with our parents, but that's something I'm willing to do to get out of my debt. And I was actually, before I moved in here, I was actually living in a very expensive neighborhood and the rent was really high. And the savings of living there for a year versus living with my in-laws for a year was like $20,000. So even though you might not want to move in with a relative or anything, if that's what you have to do to get out of debt, then just put your pride to the side and do what you have to do. They have a good sized house with an extra room that they weren't using. So, you know, why not? If you get along with them, why not do that to try to, fix your financial situation? Another thing that I did is me and my husband actually started carpooling to work. We ended up getting jobs that were not too far away from each other, so we decided to carpool. Um, Now, usually I like to drive myself to work. That way I can go and go get something to eat in the morning or go get a coffee and just kind of, take my time. But the thing is like when we started carpooling, we're saving gas, but I'm not going and wasting money like getting breakfast or anything like that, because we're kind of holding each other accountable. So now I'm not like going and spending money on breakfast or, leaving work during my lunch break. Because I actually don't have a vehicle now during my lunch break. So I can't go and drive and waste money at a restaurant. So I have to bring my lunch to work every day because I don't have a way to go get anything else, unless I order delivery, which is way more expensive. So it really not only helps with the gas money, but it also helps with, holding each other accountable. And then it helps with, me not wasting money going out to eat. So yeah, that's another thing that I did that, really helped out. Plus, after we started carpooling, we actually sold our second vehicle. So now we can't even go back to driving separate again. And, we took the money from the vehicle sale and, put it towards debt. And then also, we got to cancel, the insurance on the other vehicle. So that saved like another $100 or so a month. So, yeah. Another thing I did to save money was to stop going out to restaurants. That's a pretty obvious one. Uh, you know that it's way more expensive to eat out at a restaurant. Even if you go grocery shopping and get like a nice like ribeye steak, it's still going to be way cheaper than if you went out to eat. Um, so I started, buying groceries and prepping my food on the weekends for the whole week. That way I always have my lunch ready for work. And then another thing is I kind of take it a step further where if I am lazy and didn't feel like prepping my food, or if I just forgot to bring my lunch, then I just simply don't eat. And, it's not going to hurt you to not eat for a day or to wait until the evening. Um, Unless you have some kind of medical condition, it's not going to hurt anything. So sometimes that's what I'll do. I'll be like, oh, well, I forgot my lunch, so I just can't eat the whole day. I have to wait till I get home. Um, and Yeah, so and then also in my office at work, like management will buy like snacks and, granola bars and trail mix and, all that kind of stuff. And I'll just sit there and eat that all day. And that's not really part of my diet usually, but if that prevents me from going to a restaurant, then that's what I do. In order for me to stay disciplined and stick to this, I have to prep my food on the weekends because if I have to get up early and do it, or I have to come home from work and cook and prep, I'm most likely to fail. Um, so I make sure that I'm cooking, setting aside time on the weekend that's just for food prep, so that I can, set myself up for success. Um, in order to stick with it, I have to have the food right there and be able to grab it out of the fridge and take it to work. Because if I have to do any kind of food prep before or after work, I'm most likely to fail. So that's why I definitely make sure I, pick a day and set some time aside to prep food. And it's worth it to not have to worry about any of that during the week. It really helps out, um, helps you relax more during the week because that's one thing you don't have to think about now. So yeah, there's a list of a few things I've done to save money and pay off debt. Some of my ideas are might be a little absurd, and some of them are obvious, but they've really helped. I've been able to pay off thousands of dollars in credit card debt by doing these things, and it's totally worth it. So I don't mind making these adjustments if it's going to help out. The key is that if you do make these sacrifices and you're able to save money, make sure that that money gets to your debt or gets to savings or gets invested. Don't just waste it in some other way. So think about some of these ideas and maybe apply them to your own life and see if it helps. And I will have some more um, ideas in videos to come. Thanks.